Hello everyone, this is a closet pantry for our kitchen that I just finished framing, and I'm going to be walking through the theory behind it so that you guys can hopefully do this yourselves if you'd like to, and we'll jump into it. So in my case, I know that I have two 24-inch sliding doors. So that would mean that when they're both next to each other, it'll be 48 inches. But in our case, we want to make sure that we have an extra space for the jambs on either side. Each jam's 3/4 of an inch. And then you want to have additional space for shimming your jambs to make them perfectly plumb or level up and down. And so my rough opening is not 48 inches, it's actually 48 plus 2, which is 50 inches for this pantry. So that's the width. And then for the height of the rough opening, that is going to be 80 inches plus I have 1 inch for, just the metal track up top. And then you give yourself another inch just to be nice to yourself to adjust for, shimming, or just so that you're not directly contacting the floor. So rough opening height is 82 inches, which is a pretty standard rough opening height. And so once you know that, the very first step with framing is to install the bottom plates. So plates are any members that are going horizontally like this. So this bottom plate, I cut my baseboard back right there, as well as over there, and then cut out my, bottom plate and screwed it down into the subfloor with just some 3-inch deck screws. And then I have another bottom plate right here. That one again, attached into the subfloor. And with these really small pieces like this, I highly recommend doing a countersink drill bit. This is a number 10, and these are number 9 deck screws, and that helps prevent the wood from splitting as you're driving a 9-inch screw through it. So unless you're doing nails, but even with nails, you'll still sometimes get splitting. So so start with your bottom plates. Once your bottom plates are installed, then you can do your top plates. And so in my case, my joists are running this way, which was not good for this top plate, which is the one directly against the drywall right now. So what that meant is I was able to hit a stud on that top plate right there, so it's supported and screwed into the joist there and there. So that one's pretty well against my ceiling. But for this top plate, what I needed to do was use construction adhesive, and then I toe-nailed the top plate into the other top plate right there. And then on this side, you use a stud, which is a framing member that runs vertically to support that side of the top plate. So you gotta do that. And then if your wood is bowing down like this and not contacting the drywall below it, then you have to come in here with some temporary bracing like this to push the top plate against the drywall to make sure you've got really good contact, so that when that glue dries, takes 24 hours, you've got a solid connection. Because if you have a gap between where you've got glue and your framing member, the glue's not gonna do anything for you. So get your top plates installed, and then once the top plates are installed, you can start installing your studs. So studs are all these things that run vertically like this. And in my case, so we had that stud right there, which is already in to support the top plate as we were putting it in. But the next top plate you could throw in would be this guy right here. And then once I put in this top plate, to hold it in place, I have blocking right here, which are just these little things. These are just 1 inch in my case. And so the blocking helps secure this stud to this stud. And so with these two studs joined, they're stronger than if they were just independently able to wobble, because even though they'll be strong vertically, they'll have some lateral play like this. So your blocking helps reduce that. And then once you get all your studs in, and then you want to shoot for every 16 inches on center or less than that for your drywall. Then you can move on to putting in the header. So the header is going to be the thing that the tracks will screw onto. And so again, making sure that's at least 82 inches off of the finished floor. So in my case, I marked where 82 was. So I put in a block right here, grabbing onto this stud, and then I have 2 screws that grab into that block to support the header on this side. And then once I did that, I used a 4-foot level to make it level, and then I marked where the end of this header was level, and then I cut another block right here, screwed that in. It's also screwed into my stud right here, and then also ideally every 16 inches on center you've got additional cripple studs to support your header, which will be supporting your door. So when we install these 2 doors, the load path will be into the header and then into our cripple studs, and then from the cripple studs it goes into the top plate, and then from the top plate it's going into these studs down here and then down into our bottom plate. So that is the framing for this 48-inch door, which is really a 50-inch rough opening. And so the next steps for me now, once it's been 24 hours, I'm going to take off this temporary support brace, which is just pushing against this stud right here to make sure I keep good contact between the drywall and the adhesive and the stud. But once we're good with that, then we're going to screw or use a hole saw to put in a little 4-inch pot light right there. And then I'm going to put a little light box right here. I'm going to cut into the drywall on this other side of the wall, and I'm just going to feed some wire through so that we can have a little light inside of our new closet when this thing gets finished. And then once the electrical's done, I'm going to move on to the drywall. And one thing I want to make note of with the drywall is when you have a drywall sheet, you need to be able to screw it and support it from either end. So in this wall, we're good. But the reason why I needed to add this stud is because on the inside, yes, you can screw your drywall sheet into this stud, but without this guy, if we only left our wall with this stud, there would be nothing to support this side of the drywall, so we would be in some trouble. So that is why you need to put this thing right here. And so with that, that is the framing of this closet. So I hope this is helpful stuff. Thank you all for watching, and if you're going to take this project on, have a good time.